Well, I was raised in a Christian home. We always went to church, and I believed young in God, but it was, as a child. I remember praying on my knees for a doll for Christmas. 1 week later, I found something else I wanted, and I was embarrassed to go back to God to say, could I have this? And I knew I was wrong, and I asked him, but then I never thought about those things again, and I just think about that, but it showed that I believed, even though I didn't have an understanding. I went to 2 years of catechism classes. I was the ace in the hole for the pastor. I memorized. I was so seeking to know that I belonged to him, but it was just going over my head. I didn't have the Holy Spirit to teach me. So God gifted me with a great friend who was a Christian of the same denomination, and her faith was strong. She really kept me, God gave her to me to keep me safe during that time. But then when we graduated from college, we went separate ways, and suddenly I had to stand on my own, and I realized it wasn't working. I'd go to church, and I got no peace. Praying was difficult. I kind of gave up on it. Well, then Jerry and I met and were married in 1970. We realized we needed to get a church. So that's what drove us. He'd been raised at City Life First Baptist. And so we decided to go to a Baptist church first. And that was where I heard for the very first time the gospel of Jesus loved me so much that he really died for me, but it was very personal. No longer this God died for the world. It was for me. And all I had to do was ask him to forgive me. He would take me just like that. And I'd never heard it like that. I eagerly grabbed that and was baptized, had joy, but it didn't last because I didn't know how to grow. So, we went on with life, and I was trying to do it in my own strength, failing, felt very defeated, really started believing the lies that Satan would give me, that I'm not really saved. How can you be saved if you're not praying regularly, you're not reading the Word? So it was very defeating. I finally read a book by Brennan Manning, Lion and the Lamb, that really helped me get over that God was not tired of me coming to him, and I needed to hear that. So that helped me over that hump. And there were times, when we had difficulties in life where, I was flat on my face, praying, things with our kids and stuff like that. And I felt, his power at work, but then I just kept going back into my old habits. So about 13 years ago, a very good friend invited me to Bible study fellowship. And that was the beginning of real growth. Being regularly in the Word, and I'm learning who God is, his character, his sovereignty, his power, his love. Everything about who God really is began to just grow my faith. And from that point on, I was praying more, and I especially, I don't remember what year, and I don't know which comes first, but then I was given the cancer diagnosis in 2016, and I knew it was from the Lord, and I really was able to accept it because I knew I needed turning to him, and that he was using this to bring me back to him. And maybe I was naive, I don't know. I just know that I trusted that he had a plan and a purpose for this. I don't know if this was before or after, but I was directly praying that the Lord would give me deep assurance that I was his. The word, and I kept praying, saying, Lord, Rish, I need this. And so I was asking, and I was knocking. He doesn't answer right away, but I trusted that he would. The real big change happened for me on Easter this year, and Easter wasn't what made it significant. It was because our daughter was here. I had to tell her kind of what the doctor had told me about my timeline for this year, and I was glad to be able to talk to her in person. And while we were talking, I got the impression that God wanted me to go farther. And so I said, Lord, okay, I wanted to ask my daughter for forgiveness because I know I was not I loved her dearly, but you make mistakes. So I thought, okay, I'm just gonna. We got this conversation, and we're just being so tender. So I asked her to forgive me for the things that I had not done well, and then she opened up and asked for forgiveness for what she had done as a teenager. So it was a really tender moment, and one I'll never forget. And I don't know how long it was. I know I was walking around the house for exercise with my little walker. All of a sudden, this power, it was an energy that and I remember it flowing down through me, and it was so clearly from God, because with it was love, joy, unspeakable, peace, assurance, and what came with it that kind of took me by surprise was freedom. It all came, and I'm not hearing words, but it was knowledge that this was what was happening. And I just began praising and singing and thanking him. So tears are flowing as I'm walking. I remember just throwing up my hands and saying, Lord, I don't want to carry this junk with me anymore, resentments that I've held on to, hurts that I review. You will take my burden and you will give me rest. And that's what I want. So I've told people it was kind of like a kid at a gymnastics club that was flinging himself into the sponge pit. And I had always been afraid to do that. I was afraid because when I had tried to serve him in the past, I was doing it in my own strength and such a failure sometimes, and I was always held back by fear. And what is he going to ask of me? And I can't do it. I can't. This time there was no fear, because I found that he gives you the power to do whatever he asks of you to do. I was free. And we bought this picture because it's kind of representative of what I'm feeling right now, the chains that were holding me. I forgot to say that I realized I've suffered from social anxiety all my life. And we have a lot of stuff that filters down in our family from a grandmother. And so I thought, everybody else has got, what if I got that I'm thinking is normal? And I realized this is what I've been fighting all my life. Relationships have not been easy, and I tend to pull back. I might start a relationship, but then it fizzles out. I see other people just being so free, and I wondered, how do I get that? Well, that's one of the things he released me from. I no longer have any fear. I am free. I'm bold. I go up to strangers. I tell them about Jesus, something I could never have done before. And as I said before, I experienced a foretaste of heaven, and now heaven is so exciting to me. I have no fear of death. I have no fear of anything really right now. I knew this was a gift when the Holy Spirit came to me, that I was not going to be on this mountaintop all the time. And I said, Lord, I understand that this is a gift to me for this time, and I want to use it for your glory. Please don't leave me where I was. Please continue to work in me however you want. So after maybe 5 or 6 days, I began to notice it was slowly diminishing. And that's probably good, because I was using energy. And so then, for another week, I just kept praying, Lord, continue to use me. I'm yours. I just give you my whole life, whatever you want to do. And so yes, he's teaching me now how to practice abiding in him. And that's the message I want to give, is that this is available to everyone who has Christ. I was saved when I was 25, and I know it now because I can even look back and see how he was working in my life. I can see it. And he takes you with even the littlest bit of faith. If you come to him, he's going to take you, and once you're his, he will never let you go. So I just missed 50 years of the power that I could have had in my life, and I don't want anybody else to go through that. This is for every believer. Jesus has such a storehouse of treasures that he wants to pour out on us. And we still try to live this life in our own strength, afraid to surrender for whatever the fears are, or maybe just ignorance and not understanding what is available to us. We have to ask. You don't have because you don't ask. What is it Jesus said? I stand at the door and knock. Ask and you will receive. Anything that we're needing, wisdom, power, joy, help through a difficult time, because he does not take us out of difficulties. He takes us through it, but he gives us the strength. We are not walking alone. He leads me beside the still waters. He's so gentle. He's so gentle. He doesn't ask more than what we're able to do. He leads us along. So he gives us these good times of rest, but then he's also with you when you walk through the valley of the shadow of death. You're going to have both. And be aware that this isn't just, suddenly you're living a life that has no problems. It's no longer panic. You have calm. And I can't, it happens. It will happen. Everybody's going to be a little bit different, but don't wait. Ask him now and begin praying for it. Seek him. If there's things that you need to turn over to him, start doing it. If there's somebody you need to go to, don't be afraid. Go, and because when you're vulnerable, they become vulnerable and things just start happening. The Lord will come and give you life abundantly, like what he wants to give us. And we're cutting ourselves short by not asking for that.